crash, they can certainly point that out and say, hey, the crash was at 340. They took the blood. It was at 940. Jury can use whatever they want to use in their brain about why there's a 0.075 and 0.065 6 hours later.
Right.
But I don't think the state can sit there and try to go through a scientific formula to say, hey, at 340, we believe he was at a 185 or a 19, which I think that's what they're going to say.
So the expert could talk about how generally it metabolizes and breaks down. Can't get specific in terms of retrograde extrapolation, but it sounds like the GBI person could say, look, it would have to have been higher earlier in time. I can't tell you specifically it's 1.8. This is, if I were to sustain your motion, that would not exclude the expert talking about how the human body metabolizes alcohol or whatever the thing is they're measuring in the blood, so that he or she, the expert, could say, if at 6 hours after the incident, it's at 0.6, it necessarily was higher. I can't tell you if it was 1.8 or 1.2, but it wasn't lower.
I mean, I agree the science is probably it was higher, but I think she can get in and say, this is how alcohol comes in your body. Here's how it's absorbed. Here's how it's eliminated in a normal body. But I don't think she can say it's over 0.08. They haven't indicted per se. And I think she's getting into something she's speculating.
Okay.
And I mean, they can, for instance, they have statements from my client about generally his intoxicated condition. They can certainly bring that in. They can certainly bring in the blood test results to show these amounts, but I don't think they can go in there and start saying he was over the legal limit when they haven't indicted per se, and it's not scientifically reliable. And I don't think there's any case law that would support it being scientifically reliable.
Assume again for a minute that I read Evans and am persuaded that retrograde extrapolation isn't appropriate here based on what the GBI expert would know. In other words, not enough. Would it be an inappropriate question for a curious judge, for a prosecutor to ask the GBI expert, well, under what conditions would it be possible for Mr. Williams's BAC to not have been higher than 0.08 6 hours earlier? And the person could say, well, boy, that would have to be an incredibly weird set of events. But here's a scenario where it could be. In other words, if you flip that around, it's extremely unlikely that his BAC was not above 0.08 6 hours earlier. They're not pinning a number on it, but that seems appropriate if this expert is qualified to talk about how the body metabolizes alcohol, et cetera.
I think, I mean, I agree. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I mean, she can certainly go into basic how the body metabolizes alcohol.
Sure.
And she can certainly say 6 hours later it was a 0.065. We know he didn't drink from 340 on.
Right.
I mean, I think she can be general like that. I just don't think she can say it's 100% over 0.08, which is legal limit, because I don't think they've indicted per se, and I don't think that an actual number would come in. But she can certainly say for 6 hours he was eliminating alcohol.
Right. Okay. Mr. Abate, tell me, or Ms. Convery, whoever the lawyer is going to be, any quick thoughts? I say quick. I actually have to go deliver a public reprimand to a lawyer because our chief judge is not here for the rest of the week. So I want to hear from you briefly. I need to read Evans and Yount. So I'll circle back on this Harper challenge as well. But I'd like your thoughts first as to how you envision this playing out. And if you could bake into what you share with me, the relevance to the state's case of being able to show, needing to show that blood alcohol was above 0.8 at the time of the incident, because the way the indictment's charged, it sounds like it's useful, but it's not essential. And so I sort of want to do a background 403-ish analysis so we don't kill ourselves working through this. If this is something that helps the state's case, but there are 99 other ways in which they're going to show that it was less safe for Mr. Williams to be driving, as in res ipsa loquitur, he went the wrong way on the connector, then this is less critical.
So a couple very quick things. The site, I think, for Yount is at 249 Georgia Ave. Is it 563?
That's what I have written down, 563.
Okay, I wrote 562 so I
Okay.
think 563, and then that's just not in the motion, so I just did a quick control after it. I need to read it myself. I have reviewed Evans, and I agree there is not a ton of law on this specific issue, the retrograde extrapolation, but when I read Evans, it's actually, the issue there is, it's actually the defendant that's trying to offer the testimony of a doctor to sort of reframe to the jurors the state's position on the blood alcohol content and just the principle of less safe generally. And so he offers a doctor to say, hey, you know, if you actually look at the amount I drank, I was really at this number instead of way over legal limit. The issue that the court goes through and sort of analyzes there, I don't think we're gonna have the exact same set of issues here because they don't specifically say what this doctor is, Dr. Citron in that case, but what he was gonna specifically say as far as the number is concerned. But we would only be sort of at the most, that Carla Turner from the GBI would offer is a range of numbers. And the reason why she's gonna offer a range is I think because of exactly some of the things that the court has already discussed with counsel, that she is gonna acknowledge this is sort of the universe of factors that you need to take into consideration when you're doing this type of analysis. And some of those things are unknown to us in this situation. But because of what we do know about the way the human body processes alcohol and the time that we're working with here, and that number that we have some hours later, I can, you know, estimate a range based on what I know and to a scientific degree of certainty. The other issue in Evans is that the doctor went on to testify. They must have had a pretrial hearing, but the doctor testified in some capacity that there was an error rate of like up to 20% on this wide mark sort of formula or analysis that he uses to get to this specific number. We're not gonna have any testimony about that formula or any formula, just that generally here are the principles that we know, here are the universe of factors that we know apply to and how they work together to come to a number, and this is the range that we offer. The reason why I think it's relevant in this case, we certainly have only charged us, I just wanted to do a quick look at the indictment myself before I said this to the court, but it is a significant period of time later. He does, certainly there are things that the state will argue that also help with that analysis, is whether or not he was less safe, DUI less safe. But he turns out sort of exits a business and turns out on the wrong way on the road, and then it's onto the connector. So it's not on something that's just dispositive in and of itself if he's going the wrong way on the highway. So I think it is relevant and extremely probative and relevant for the jury to be able to include an analysis based on what we know about those factors and how they work together when they're trying to decide whether or not he was less safe at the time of this accident. It's like 3:40 in the morning, we don't get a blood draw until close to 9.
So Ms. Turner won't be saying, I've run the numbers and he'd be at a 1.3. She'd say based on average height and weight and average metabolism, then one would expect that 6 hours earlier, a human would be at 1.4 to 1.8. But it's a range, but all those numbers would be above 0.08.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Because of the things that, those, for analysis of those factors. And of course, I expect we're gonna lay a foundation about, you know, the unknowns in those factors as well. And of course, our position is that all of the things we've talked about are gonna be appropriate for prosecution.
But the 0.08 in some respects is a bogey for the lawyers who know about this. It's not in the indictment. The state doesn't have to prove that he was 0.08 or higher or anything like that. Because of the way it's charged, the burden is different. You need to convince the jury beyond the reasonable doubt that he was less safe. And that gives Mr. Jacobs some wiggle room to say, hey, you know what, the numbers, you've heard these numbers, but they don't matter because there's not a per se, hey, he was 0.09, so he necessarily, it doesn't matter how safe you thought he was.
Right, and I agree, and I think that's a relevant thing to consider when we're deciding on this issue. The reason I think it ends up being necessary is because it's less safe because of that alcohol consumption. And that number is helpful in that analysis, and I think it's super pertinent for the jurors when they're determining. Certainly he had less safe driving, but is it because of that consumption?
Got it. Let me read Evans. I will do that, and then we'll talk about this some more.
Okay.
What I'd ask is that in the opening, Don't talk about how Ms. Turner will be pegging a range. You may say there'll be testimony from experts who will talk about the effect of alcohol or whatever you want to do that. But what I'm hearing as the red alert for Mr. Jacobs is whether it's a range or a specific number, it's layering some scientific certainty or the appearance of scientific certainty around a figure that would have been Mr. Williams's blood alcohol level at the time of the alleged incident. And I understand why the state wants to do it. And it may be that I say they can, but I want to process these cases first. So just don't say that in your opening. Otherwise, I think we've covered what we need to in the motions in limine. Anything else from the state before I go do this reprimand?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Jacobs.
No, Your Honor.
All right. How are we doing with our jurors? All of them are here. Fantastic. Deputy Gordon, if you'll go with me right next door to Judge Brasher's courtroom, we'll take care of Attorney Mathis. And then we can get, I'll leave it up to you whether Mr. Williams stays with his client or not. That's, we don't have enough people? Okay. All right. I will be right back.
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah.
This will take 5 minutes max. It is a one-page reprimand.
No.
Can you tell me who you're calling today? Just so I'm curious.
All the lay victims.
The Gispers,
Mhm.
to get them out of here, obviously.
And then Sibley and
Artists.
mhm,
Okay. So today's just gonna be lay witness day, pretty much.
pretty much.
Okay, I'm really not asking you more questions.
Okay. So I'm guessing we're still at an impasse.
It's just, I don't understand. You guys here for part? Good. Ari, you guys are serious. Probably years. He's already at 3, and if we lose. Legal is dismissed everything that involves DUI, which is serious counts, dismissed as we call murder counts, representing withdrawal of citizens. And he's only to homicide, serious injuries that are based off of seeing, driving, something like that, which it's well, 40 years ago. And what's that? I mean, it's, when I say too late, he walked out right now and says, I'm ready to leave. That one stop someone? Yeah. Can you bring, can you let talk to him? Okay. I mean, if you could talk to him, he's going on a case with very little defense. And with the reset of notice, judge has no discretion. Doesn't have to max out. So we can spend the rest of the life person unless the full here. So he's got very little defense. So if he goes to trial today or this week, it'll be over by Friday. If he loses on, even if he somehow won on the other counts, but lost on some of the other counts, judge has to max out his tolerable parole certainly for him. So he could get, even if he ran the table and did great, he could still get 45, 60 years easily, just on a few counts. And there's no parole. So he can get out, he can be paroled. I don't want to promise a date of parole, but if the DUI is gone, the health is gone, it's very favorable. But I don't think you also talked about like. Yeah. Hey, are you Mark?
Yeah.
Lake?
Yeah.
Hey, Mike.
Anyway.
Hey, nice to meet you. Yeah, right there. Good. We just did a couple motion eliminates and then we're starting trial number 7.
Okay.
Yeah, openings.
All right. He's your attorney?
No, he represents the victims.
Yeah.
You want me to go outside?
All right, gentlemen, what I'm gonna do. Hey, where you at, lad? Yes. Yes. He already, he already there.
Why do you don't speak a book?
Yeah, hold on a second. I need you to come over for me. Yeah. Come on. You come over for me. Wow, this is. Patient got here. You come in. Let this guy talk to his mom. And he take it down. That's what I need you for. They come and still serve.
They're either gonna have to either cause an accident, so he either is not guilty of all felonies and he walks out of jail Friday, or guilty of all three.
He said he was on his way.
So,
But yeah, he already, yeah, he was the judge, he went over it already. All right, family, come that second row for me, please. Right here. Yeah, he's stuck right there. Yeah, just don't. Yeah, that's fine. I got you. Okay. All right, I'm gonna give you like 5 minutes.
Okay.
I lock the door.
Okay.
You can't touch him, you can't hug him.
Okay.
You can express yourself, put the mask down, so express. The big thing is that he said, you didn't want to. Okay, so they're gonna talk to him. Talk to him, we'll sit right here.
Okay.
All right,
but we're starting openings in a few minutes. Once we start openings, off.
all right. So I'm gonna sit right here and we'll talk about it. Okay. 70 to 1341. Hold on 1 second. You just gotta come here. ETA to 8 Delta.
It's up to the judge, but this judge, from my understanding, on what people tell me who practice in here a lot on the Thursday night, Thursday. So
That was a mistake. You ready?
but Judge, Mr. Body, the deputy asked him to step back there. Adam says he wants to keep the offer for 5 more minutes. And he wants the family to talk to her. The deputy said that was fine. I told him that I thought you might be going for a few more minutes, so I don't want to delay anything. But Mr. Body said if they can have 60 seconds and convince him and end this thing, they'll do it. If not,
It's up to Sarge. If Sarge can make that
they'll
happen.
bring him out right
Oh,
now.
all right. Should I step out?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
I need you.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. All right, your family won't talk to you.
I see.
It's an option. Hang it up. Seriously, bro.
Trying to work at like. Never in my life, bro, in my business. Never in my life, somebody would put me. Cause they're trying to do me like that.
Stop focusing on everybody else.
It's like 40 years, bro, it ain't no telling.
Bro, you live to see another day, bro. You, yeah, bro. Tripping, bro. I know that shit hard, bro, but I'm gonna support, bro.
All right, the judge come back in 2 minutes, he said, and the offer's off in 2 minutes. Save your life.
I know that shit hard.
They will parole you on these charges. They will parole you. Trust me on this. Don't throw your life away, bro. You're not.
I said, you too loud. You too.
You can't help, bro.
Let's focus on parole.
I know, but I don't understand that jack about it.
The art,
Yeah, right, bro, I ain't even seen like, I ain't even seen her. No, no, I ain't seen myself like, they don't want to see
bro.
once, like, if I would have seen myself and be like that, I'm still in the life, bro. I ain't doing shit like hell, bro. I take 40 years for that. I gotta take 40 years.
It's not 4 years. Bro, you're getting life without parole right after.
Everything.
I want to take it from her. I'm with you, bro. I'm with you, bro. It's gonna be a different outcome. Look at it, bro. Stop looking at that number, bro. Looking at that number, bro.
We're gonna send a nice ball back. We're gonna get quickly. You might. All these things. Those are serious counts. You're traffic offenses. What?
Oh, have a seat, though. Have a seat, have a seat. I know, have a seat. Calm down.
We want to take you not that
All right, we need Mr. Abate.
Let's do it right now. We'll get you for
All right, let me get Ms. Rivers and we'll get going. Mr. Abate, are there people you need to get into court? I noticed there are a few people on the Zoom session.
No.
You're good?
It doesn't make any difference. You talked about that. There's no practical difference to that. And they're not going to do it now because we require them to go back there for an hour and do it. There's no practical difference of a trust. They're dismissed.
What are they doing now?
They're not.
What you mean? What they want to say, make the city of being 40 years.
They're not. They're on traffic offenses. They're like code, severity level 3 on the code guidelines.
I know that, but that's why. That way they made me be like, all right, bro, that's right.
I see the visitors up there. They're Do we do it orally or do we need to tell everything else? I mean, how should
Yeah.
Okay.
So you had a plea form.
I don't know what I did with it.
You didn't take it with you because you didn't need to, and they used to be out there. I'll want you guys to do that, given the circuitous route we've taken to get here. So I think we can start the oral proceedings, but then I'll want you guys to fill that out.
Okay.
Do you know? Yeah, I think Deidre takes them. I don't know if they may be right here, Deputy Gordon, just stacked up here.
I left it on my table when we did.
You did, but that's fine.
Okay.
I think she's one more. Is that? Just grab one of those.
Before you got to like.
All right. I think we're good to go. You ready, Ms. Rivers?
Yeah.
So we are back again on December 1 in State versus Williams. Mr. Jacobs has announced again that Mr. Williams is prepared to enter a plea. It's my understanding that it is a negotiated plea to 33 of the 35 counts in the indictment, all but the 2 felony murder counts, and that it will be a joint recommendation of 40 years to serve. Is that still the situation, Mr. Abate, or has it changed?
It's changed. The years are the same, Your Honor, but the state is, because of the number of homicide by vehicles and they would merge into each other, we're going to dismiss counts 5, 9, 12, 16, 18, and 20. So anything having to do with DUI.
33, whatever, the DUI itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why is the DUI such a focus of attention?
It's my understanding. Well, the DUI is the focus of attention, I think, for the defendant because he was under the legal limit. I understand, I guess, the argument that that comes with that. I think obviously it was charged DUI less safe, but in the spirit of negotiation, I agreed to the request from defense counsel.
Okay, but it doesn't change the overall recommendation.
That's correct.
So if you could repeat, just so I'm jotting it down and Ms. Nelson will want to have it. You are moving to dismiss counts 1 and 2 that I knew.
Yeah.
And?
Counts 5, 9, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, now 30.
Okay.
All right.
Got it. Mr. Williams, are you prepared to go forward?
Yes, sir.
All right. I need you to talk more towards the microphone so that Ms. Rivers can hear you. You understand the basic contours of what we're about to do. You'll be entering a guilty plea. If I accept it, the state is recommending a term of 40 years to serve. And Mr. Jacobs, while he'll be free to share with me mitigating circumstances, good things about you, why this isn't as serious as the state makes it sound, et cetera, he is constrained to recommend that same term of 40 years. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then let's go forward. In a moment, Mr. Abate is going to put you under oath. Once you're under oath, you need to answer all of his questions truthfully and completely. It is important that if anything happens that is different than what you were expecting or that confuses you in any way, you let Mr. Jacobs or me know, because I need to find at the end that you understood all the things we talked about. There's nothing in here that's meant to be intentionally confusing or tricky, but if it's going in a direction that you didn't think it was going to go in, please let me know so we can clear up whatever your concern is. Will you do that?
Yes, sir.
All right. When you're ready, Mr. Abate.
Judge, just wanted to give you a quick record. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony which you give in this matter pending before this court will be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, sir.
Yes, sir.
You confirm the court reporter was please give you true, correct, and legal answer to the record.
Kyrie Jamal Williams,
And Mr. Williams, how old are you?
36,
And how far did you go on school?
GED.
And are you at this time, sir, taking or under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medicine?
No, sir.
And is there any medication that you take on a daily basis that you didn't take today that would hinder or affect your ability to understand the process?
No, sir.
Now, you understand that you're charged with several offenses in indictment number 19 SC 167672, including 2 counts of felony murder, 7 counts of homicide by vehicle in first degree, 10 counts of serious injury by vehicle, 2 counts of hit and run resulting in death, 5 counts of hit and run resulting in serious injury, and count 28, fleeing and attempting to elude a police officer, count 29, a misdemeanor of reckless driving, count 30, driving under the influence of alcohol is less safe, count 31, driving the wrong way on a roadway, count 32, failure to obey a traffic control device, 2 counts of that, and then counts 34, improper lane change. The last count will be obstruction of the law. You understand that you're charged with a lot of those offenses currently?
Yes, sir. How many felons is that?
For a minute, we'll talk about which ones merge into each other.
Yeah, a bunch are being dismissed, and then some of them are going to merge. So remember that question, and we can answer it once we've done all those calculations to say it's X felonies.
Like most of the serious injuries go into one serious injury, unless that's for one homicide.
Okay. Do you understand, sir, that you have the right to plead either guilty or not guilty to these charges? And if you plead not guilty or remain silent, you may receive a jury trial.
Yes, sir.
And have you had an opportunity to review the waiver of rights form with your attorney, Mr. Jacobs? That's the paperwork sitting next to you.
They haven't yet. They're going to do that. We're going to work through this, and then we'll take a break so they can go over that, and then that'll be the final piece.
And Mr. Jacobs, do you waive a formal reading of the indictment,
Yes.
as well as any and all defects in the indictment, including any with respect to your client's name for the purposes of this plea?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Williams, has your attorney advised you of the minimum and maximum sentence for each charge that you are pleading guilty to?
Yes, sir.
He advised you, obviously, we talked on the record, count 1 and 2, which is felony murders, which have a maximum of life without possibility of parole, minimum of life. But since you are an ANC recidivist, you're gonna be a mandatory life without parole sentence, are being dismissed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then he advised you that for all the homicide by vehicle and the first degree charges, the minimum is 3 years, maximum is 15 years.
Yes, sir.
And then as to the serious injury by vehicle, each charge, if he advised you, is 1 year, the maximum is 15 years.
On what?
The serious injury by vehicle charges.
Oh, yes, sir.
And we also advise you that the hit and run resulting in a death, the minimum is 1 year, the maximum is 10 years.
Yes, sir.
And did he also advise you that the felony fleeing, attempting to elude a police officer, the minimum is 1 year, the maximum is 5 years.
Yes, sir.
And then the remaining counts of the indictment, counts 49 through 35, all the misdemeanors that we spoke about, that the minimum is 1 day, the maximum being 12 months, and or $1,000 fine.
The hit and run resulting in serious injury, are those all being dismissed? Or do they have a different range?
I apologize, John. They're also, you understand that they are also 1 year, and the maximum being 10 years.
Yes, sir.
Do you understand, Mr. Williams, that this is a negotiated plea of guilty? Which means that the state and your counsel are recommending a sentence of court. The court does not have to accept the sentence recommended by the state defense counsel, that the court would sentence you to more time or less time.
Yes, sir.
Do you understand that this plea may be used to enhance sentencing on other convictions in this jurisdiction as well as in other jurisdictions, including the federal courts, if you receive any additional felonies?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand, sir, that if you're not a United States citizen, the guilty plea conviction will affect your immigration status? It will result in deportation, just like a conviction at trial would. This is true regardless of any advice that you receive by your attorney or anyone else.
Yes, sir.
And you understand that by pleading guilty to a felony, if you use, possess, or transport a firearm, or use a firearm in a crime, you'll be guilty of a felony, which may carry a sentence of 1 year to 15 years in prison.
Yes, sir.
And do you understand that you waive any and all defenses, including any mental health defenses, by entering a guilty plea here today, sir?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Williams, you understand, pleading guilty, you are giving up the following rights: the right to a trial by jury, the right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself, the right to confront witnesses against you, the right to the assistance of counsel hired by you or appointed if you are unable to afford an attorney at the trial of your case, the right to presumption of innocence, the right to testify on your own behalf and to present their evidence, the right to subpoena witnesses and compel production of evidence, the right to have the charges against you proved beyond reasonable doubt by the state of Georgia, and the right to appeal if convicted of these charges after trial. We understand that by entering this plea here today, you are giving up or waiving all of those rights.
Yes, sir.
And Ms. Brands, has anyone forced, threatened, or promised you anything to get you to enter a guilty plea here today?
No, sir.
And is it your decision to waive these rights and enter a guilty plea because you're in fact guilty?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Williams, how do you plead to the charges in indictment number 19 SC 167672, count 4, homicide by vehicle,
Guilty.
count 6, homicide by vehicle in the first degree,
Guilty.
count 7, homicide by vehicle in the first degree,
Huh?
count another count 7, homicide by vehicle in the first degree.
Yes.
That's my record strategy.
Guilty. Oh, so at 3?
Yes,
They'll merge into each other though, for sentencing.
you'll only be sentenced
Yeah.
on one.
Before you go through that further, you didn't mention count 3. I thought count 3 was not being dismissed. You started with 4. That's okay. I think what might work better is if you list the counts to which he's pleading guilty and then ask them how he pleads to those. So we can all keep track of them.
So as it pertains to the indictment, Mr. Williams, how do you plead it? Counts 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, all homicide by vehicle in the first degree charges.
Guilty.
As to count 11, 13, 14, 17, and 19, all involving serious injury by vehicle. How do you plead to those counts?
So you said 14, but I thought 14 was being dismissed and he was pleading to 15. So we just need to get that one ironed out.
Counts 13, I thought I said 15, I apologize. 13, 15,
Let me see it. Let me see it.
17, and 19.
You correct it.
So the odd numbered ones.
Everything that's just DUI, they're dismissing.
All right.
And all these other ones, he'll tell you in a minute how they merge. A lot of the stuff merges together as a matter of law. So it's only one conviction.
All right.
Yeah.
Guilty.
And as to counts 21, 22, both hit and run resulting in a death.
Guilty.
That counts 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27, all hit and run resulting in serious injury.
Guilty.
And as to count 28, fleeing and attempting to elude a police officer, a felony.
These are all traffic accidents after this, except for the last count's obstruction.
Oh, guilty.
And then counts 29, 31, 32, 33, 34, and 35, all misdemeanor charges in the indictment. How do you plead?
Yes. Yes.
Is it this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with full knowledge of the charges against you, sir?
Yes, sir.
And do you understand that you may only have a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction?
Yeah, yes, sir.
And do you understand that you have only 4 years from today for a felony charge and 12 months from today for the misdemeanor charge you pleaded to file what's called a habeas corpus petition challenging the voluntariness of this plea?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, had the state pursued the trial, the state would have been able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that on April 20th of 2019, around 3:40 in the morning, the defendant turned to left onto Spring Street, making it so that he was driving on the wrong side of the road, Spring Street, right there where the varsity and parking lot that the varsity is connected to, right there.
You say driving on the wrong side of the road. Isn't it a one-way street?
Yes, he was driving on a one-way street the wrong way.
The wrong direction. Okay.
And as he was driving, Sergeant Buckner with the Georgia State Patrol was actually in the area on Spring Street and saw the defendant driving the wrong way on the wrong direction on the one-way road and blue lighted. When he put his blue lights and sirens on, you can see on the dash cam the defendant makes a U-turn on Spring Street and begins to travel the right direction down Spring Street and flees at a very high rate of speed. He crosses over and through Ponce and North. At both of those intersections are red lights, which he blows through. He then continues to travel down Spring Street towards what I know to be as the Williams Street exit onto or entrance ramp onto I-75 connector. As he is making that turn, the calculations that were done by Sergeant Robillard would show that he reached a maximum speed of around 106 miles an hour and lost control as he was trying to navigate the turn of the ramp. When he did lose control, his car rotated and he hit this Laura Artist who was driving a Nissan Altima. And when he hit Miss Artist's back left side of her vehicle, it shifted the velocity of his vehicle, making it again so it's almost as if he was traveling again the wrong way down I-75, which caused him to have a head-on collision with a red Ford Explorer who was being driven, which was being driven by Juan Gaspar Sr. And when this collision occurred, it caused the front seat passenger, Mr. Juan Gaspar Jr., to be ejected from the vehicle, as well as his Mr. Gisbert Senior's wife and the mother of Mr. Gisbert Junior, who was in the very back seat of the expedition, also to be ejected from the back of the vehicle.
This is actually he's saying to be agreed
Gisbert
to.
Senior
He
was
just-
also ejected, he survived the incident
That's what I was saying.
based on the trauma of both Miss Gisbert and Mr. Gisbert Junior sustained. They did not survive the accident. The autopsy report or the autopsy report testified to by the medical examiner would have shown the court and the jury that Mr. Juan Gisbert Jr.'s skull was wrapped in several locations to where when the scalp was pulled back, the top of his skull just fell off. That's the severity of the trauma that he received.
How old was he?
He was 28 years old. He had 2 children under the age of 5. Miss Gisbert was 58 years old. They had all gone up to visit their other son, Angel Gisbert, who lived in Detroit, and they traveled back and forth frequently. As Mr. Juan Gisbert Sr. and his oldest son, Juan Jr., would travel there to help with the business, trying to get it on its feet. This happened to be Easter weekend. They were all traveling late Friday evening into early Saturday morning to make it back to their home in Hollywood, Florida, so they could spend Christmas with their 2 grandchildren and Mr. Juan Jr.'s kids. Miss Artist and Mr. Sibley did sustain serious injuries as well.
You hadn't mentioned a Sibley before. Who was Mr. Sibley?
Mr. Sibley was the passenger in this artist's vehicle.
Okay.
He sustained a broken Achilles as well as he had some tooth trauma. He actually lost some teeth that he had to have replaced. And Miss Artist also sustained head, neck, and back injuries inside of the Red Ford Explorer, being driven by Juan Sr. was also his other son. I mentioned Mr. Angel Gisbert. He suffered a broken leg and some lacerations on his head and scalp. And they had a family friend who they had known for 30+ years who lived in their neighborhood, and all the children had grown up together. She also sustained a broken leg as well as broken ribs and head lacerations. That would be the charge on the indictment that involved all of those individuals who were seriously injured. Upon the impact of the collision occurring, the defendant can be seen on a cell phone. Everybody seems to have cell phones these days, and there were other people who were traveling on I-75, always busy. They were able to capture the defendant getting out of his vehicle, running down I-75 up to the median wall and climb over the median wall, and then cross over all 6-8 lanes of traffic on the north side of I-75, putting more people's lives in danger. And he was being pursued on foot by Sergeant Tarpley as well as Sergeant Buckley with the Georgia State Patrol, where they were able to take him under arrest or get him under control as he climbed up the embankment right there. The Peachtree Street exit would be, he did have to be tased. He was non-compliant, and he continued to resist arrest, where both Sergeant Tarpley had to close fist strikes to the side of his body in order to get his hands under arrest and in custody. At that point, Your Honor, he is taken to Brady after he has read Georgia by consent, where he first consented. He then withdrew consent when search warrant was obtained by Sergeant Buckner. After his blood was taken at Brady, it was sent to the GBI, where it was tested by forensic toxicologist Carla Turner, where she was able to determine at the time that his blood was taken, he was at .065, as we spoke about today. If her testimony about retrograde extrapolation would have been admitted. What she would have been able to testify is that 5 hours, which would have been 3:40 to 9:06 approximately, is what alcohol would have been between 1.5 and 1.8. She also had done the calculations to show that to be conservative, taking it 3 hours back from the testing of the blood, it still would have shown his alcohol was 0.12 to 0.15, based on how the average person metabolizes alcohol. Your Honor, how this case proceeded to trial, that's what the state would have been able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. The state did file a recidivist notice under OCGA 1710-7 under subsections A and C. Due to the fact that the defendant does have 10 prior felony convictions, that was filed on November 18th of this year, 2021. As part of the negotiation, the state is withdrawing that notice as part of the recommendation to the court, where the defendant would be, the recommendation from counsel is that the defendant be sentenced on count 3, homicide by vehicle in first degree, which is 15 years to serve. And count 7, consecutive, another 15 years to serve. And then count 11, serious injury by vehicle count will be another consecutive 10 years or a total of 40 years to serve. Several of the counts would vacate by operation of law, Your Honor, due to the pleading guilty of the homicide by vehicle. In count 3, the remaining homicide by vehicles would vacate by operation of law, my understanding.
The remaining for that victim.
Yes,
Okay, so 3 is Juan Gisbert Jr. So any other homicide by vehicle that you haven't null prossed that lists Juan Jr. as the victim would be vacated.
yes, and I.
Okay.
Specific count 4 would vacate by operation of law.
30.
Count 5
6.
is count 6 could be,
So a lot of these are. getting-
would also vacate by operation of law. Count 7 would be the 15 years, the sentence 15 years consecutive. Count 3, count 8 would vacate by operation of law. 9 is null pros. Count 10 would also vacate by operation of law. And then as to the serious injury by vehicles, the sentence of 10 years served consecutive. Count 11, count 12 is being null pros. Count 13 would be an additional 10 years, which run concurrent. Count 14 is being null pros. Count 15 would be 10 years to serve concurrent with the sentence. Count 16 would be.
And Ms. Bennett was the family friend who was in the red Ford.
Yes.
Okay.
Count 16 is being null pros. Count 17 is for Ms. Laura Artist, who was the first vehicle. She was driving the first vehicle that the defendant hit. That would also be 10 years to serve concurrent. Count 18 would be dismissed. Count 19 is count involving passenger of Ms. Artist's vehicle, Charles Sibley. That would be 10 years to serve concurrent. Count 20 would be null pros. And then count 21 would be an additional 10 years to be served concurrently. Count 22, following the death of Mrs. Gisbert, would be an additional 10 years to serve concurrent. And then count 23, the hit and run resulting in serious injury for Juan Senior, would be an additional 10 years. And that would be the same for counts 24, 25, 26, and 27, all 10 years concurrent. And then count 27, 28, fleeing and attempting to elude, would be 5 years to serve concurrent. And then the remaining counts, other than count 30 being null pros, would be 12 months to serve.
Okay.
Nothing further from the state. There is a representative of the family who is in courtroom. It is their civil attorney. His name is Mr. Mark Link. Morning, Your Honor.
Morning.
Made aware of the plea negotiations as well as the family. It's also been made aware that they included in all the negotiations as the.
He's counsel for the Gisberts, not everyone or for everyone?
He's counsel for the the Gisberts and Miss Beth,
Okay, the red Ford.
the red.
Okay,
And I've been in touch with Miss Artist as well, Mr. Sibley. They are very aware of what's going on there.
and joining us, I don't know who's on YouTube, so this is viewable, but joining us on the Zoom, we have two Gisberts as
Yes,
well.
Miss Andrea Gisbert is the wife of Mr. Juan Gisbert Jr. And the other Gisbert, I believe, is a close cousin, but I'm not 100% certain.
Okay. Was Mr. Link going to say anything, or was anyone on behalf of the Gisberts? No one needs to say anything, but their victim impact statement is appropriate if there is any.
It's my understanding, Your Honor, that no one wanted necessarily to make a statement. They wanted Your Honor to know that this has forever changed their life, as Your Honor knows, and it was a tragic situation that they have to live with every single day.
What was the nature of the conversation that you or a colleague has had with either Mr. Link or the Gisberts about their thoughts as to this resolution?
They were in support of this resolution. In fact, speaking with Amy Gisbert, we phoned him in, he's in Detroit, and I spoke with him at length on Sunday in person. Obviously, this will be the most traumatic event of his life, and having to relive it was something that he definitely didn't want to do, but he would do. But reliving and having to talk to 12, 14 people about holding his brother as he died and trying to save his mother as she died is something that he hasn't been able to get out of his sight, whether his eyes are open or closed. It's something that will affect him, and he's destined to deal with it every single day.
Okay, thank you. I don't think we have a probation officer on the call. I don't know that we need one because the criminal history is pretty well documented on the recidivist notice. So let me turn then to Mr. Jacobs.
Judge, just a few things. I have no real issue with the facts, sir.
And then once he got clearance to do so, he went ahead and left.
1 second. That was Ms. Rolak's phone. Back to you.
I know the 106 miles an hour on Spring Street kind of shocks the conscience. That's the one thing I think I was confident this trial I could prove it. His math was wrong. He was not going anywhere near 106. He's going about 60. It's still over the speed limit, still more 20 over the speed limit. But I would just ask you to accept what the state's recommended. I had asked Mr. Williams a couple weeks ago to kind of lay out for me everything he would testify if he testified about his criminal history and his facts and everything. I went back to get it, and essentially it was a apology letter to the victims, and it wasn't anything about his past or what he was testified to. He's very remorseful. He's been remorseful since day one. I know his criminal history doesn't show it, but there's nothing violent on his history. He's never committed a violent act on anybody. He did have a cocaine problem one time in his life that he's beaten. He does have family here to support him today. He does have 2 small daughters at home. This deal gives him a chance to rehabilitate and get out and still have a long life, I think. And I think it's a fair deal not to put the Gisberts through the trial. And Mr. Williams has been remorseful from day one. And he made a mistake that night and not stopping for Trooper Buckner. And he's very apologetic, and I just ask you, Your Honor, to accept it.
Did Mr. Williams ever talk with you about what prompted the high-speed flight? And was there something in the car? He thought there was a warrant?
What
He hadn't been
I can tell you.
convicted since 28. Well, I guess this was 2019. It's only a year later. I forget about the passage of time since this incident.
I can tell you the 2 things that prompted it.
Mhm.
One was he's on federal parole for a few more years, and he had met with his parole officer sometime shortly before this incident. And his parole officer had told him, if you commit any criminal offense, including a misdemeanor, I'm revoking your parole. So that was in his mind. And then he lost in January, 3 months before this, of 19. A friend of his was an actual victim of a robbery, but was misidentified by the police and shot and killed by the police. And it was just a general fear of police. And that's why he took off. And it's reality, I think, for a lot of people. But it's also, had he stopped Trooper Buckner, I know Trooper Buckner well, he would have issued him a citation, might have arrested him for DUI and been done with this. But those are the two reasons why I took off.
Okay. Mr. Williams, you have a right to allocute, which means say anything you want. You don't have to say anything at all, but this is your time in the same way that anyone from the Gispert family could have shared with me beyond what Mr. Abate very effectively shared with me, their thoughts. You have the same opportunity if there's anything you want to say.
Is the family listening?
So if you speak up, I bet they can hear you. We have a couple of Gisperts on the call and their lawyer is here, but hold on one second.
Just to, I apologize interrupting. Investigator Rickman is en route. He's about 3 minutes away with several members of the victim's family who would like to address the court, just to let the court know their feelings.
Well, why don't we have Mr. Jacobs and Mr. Williams work on the plea form, because we got to do that anyway. And we'll use that time to let those folks get here, and then we'll pick back up where we left off. So I'll hear from people if they want to be heard, and then I'll turn back to Mr. Williams to have the final, almost final word.
Huh? We still right here or?
You do whatever Sarge says. I'm gonna go back into chambers and I'll come back out if you will let me know when the investigator gets here. Thank you. Oh, and Deputy Gordon, will you let, after he's in a good, will you let the jurors know we have not forgotten them? We're in the middle of something important. I'll go over there when we're done, but just let them know we haven't forgotten. Good exercise for you.
I don't know if it's got the dose too high again.
Anything from me?
They're coming.
Yeah, you know, I told my boy get that water for you. I couldn't have having my name. I'm like, what?
You know, I get choked up.
That's interesting. That's 5 minutes. Oh, you get a call with this?
My son is in.
Oh, it's, oh, okay. Oh,
And I got halfway here and I was like, let me just be on time.
yeah, I mean, I can get my other phone.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I can-
No, it's in a parking lot, in the car,
Oh,
and it's like parking. I don't take it in the house.
you need a job in the car.
Yeah. That way I take it.
We practice that, Mr.
Also practice one more.
Okay, I thought I saw Florida.
Yeah. That's my case.
Yeah,
That's another one.
yeah, I don't know civil law that well. So, but,
Oh, no, law school guy.
he's a judge, is it the judge right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, over the guy, yeah, I get asked, I get calls from him.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm on judge's email screen, I'll have to respond and say you got the wrong picture. This is
Where's your office at?
Echo Building, like 3 blocks away.
Okay.
So, we only do criminal. We did civil, we had one attorney that did civil a few years ago, about 8 years ago, and he got a suit because my law partner and I don't do civil. We didn't, and we just trusted he knew what he was doing and he committed malpractice. And we had to tender our policy limits. And then Scott and I were like, criminal lawyers, we're going through civil. And we
Yeah,
got it.
I don't think
Yeah, I've only done criminal. I've never touched a civil case. And that's why we didn't have any supervision over the one attorney, because Scott and I don't do civil.
Okay.
And he messed an anti-letter notice up and then the session ran and we
I started.
didn't know we got sued.
Clerking for a pretty big time before Jackson was criminal. Better known back in the day. I was like, I don't want to do criminal anymore.
Yeah.
It's like.
The beauty of criminal, like your business, if you miss a deadline, your opponent is gonna try to bury
Yeah.
it. And criminal, let's say I forget to file something. At the end of the day, the criminal defendant has so many rights and judges want to bend over backwards and make sure that they let you file out of that stuff. Where in your business, you miss a
Yeah.
deadline and
Especially in federal court.
your opponent's gonna bear it.
Yeah, federal court.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Downward version.
Yeah.
Everything nowadays.
Yeah, judge summed it up. I heard one judge summed it up, I don't think McBurney who summed up best difference in civil, everything's written, agreements, and criminal, it's all handshakes. Yes, like if I trust the prosecutor,
I wish we could go back to that.
yeah, I know, I trust what he's gonna say.
It's like that. Yeah, like, pretty simple, like, cordial.
Yeah.
Attorneys.
Attorneys, yeah.
You know, Miami. You can't trust them.
You know Billy Dean, I think that's his name?
I've heard the name, yeah.
He is a good friend of my law partner. That's all. He's a Miami civil lawyer. He's probably 70 years old now. I've met him one time years ago, but
It's like cutthroat
I
down there,
bet.
as far as like, they're always filing motions for ridiculous stuff
Yeah.
and things like that.
I think this has been hell trying to get this case resolved.
I was like,
He
I
is,
was meeting with him.
he is, yesterday during voir dire, him and I are passing this entire day. I'm like, you are on a suicide mission right now. If you don't take this deal, he is gonna off give every day the rest of your life. And I said, take this deal and try to get out with it. You're gonna serve some time. I said, try to get out with it. And
where the jury will,
terrible for us.
out in possible.
Yeah. And then this morning, the prosecutor's like, I'll leave the offer open until we do opening statements. He rejected it again. And I was like, what's our defense? You're
Yeah.
making me go to a case I don't have a defense on. You were out of control, crashed into people died. You took off running. You have no defense.
It's not
And
bad, it's not
then
bad.
finally, his brief family received that, and I said, one last chance, Judge, can everybody leave and let them talk to him? And
Well, see, that's a beauty with the civil case, you always go to mediation.
Sure.
Or third party, like
Yeah.
talking sense to your client.
yeah, but I mean, I kept telling him, I'm like, you understand if you don't take this Friday afternoon, he's gonna give you life without parole.
Yeah.
That's either no discretion on the recidivist notice. He has to give life without parole. And I said, and you have no hope, you're dead. I mean, you're gonna be,
So does that really mean he's in prison for life?
it does, yeah, because how the recidivist notice works, judge has to max him out on everything, and he doesn't ever get eligible for parole or anything, ever.
Oh, wow.
So I told him, I said, someday you're gonna be 80 years old, you're gonna die, I guess, in medical prison. They're put you in some little cardboard box and go bury you somewhere, and that's your life. And I said, and that's gonna happen 48 to 72 hours from now. If you don't take this plea. I said, you're making a family come in here where one of them is gonna say that their family member's skull fell off.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna think the jury's gonna just say, it was just an accident.
That's like.
Were you the one that was there?
Yes,
So you were driver?
yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. I saw your video and I just,
It was very traumatic,
it's incredible.
very embarrassed. I mean,
if you put yourself there in that situation, regardless, it was very traumatic, very emotional to see that young man just leave. And I think I yelled, "Hey,
You did,
stop!"
yeah, you were, you were,
And he kept on, he had to have known, whether he realized he killed anybody or not, had to have known that there were people that were injured. For one, seeing him be thrown from that vehicle, have massive facial reconstructive surgery. And then his son, I'm really here for the family, especially for that 4-month-old boy and that 4-year-old, they're not gonna have a father. I mean, what can you do? I'd like to be able to confront him and say, how would you give that life back? What are you going to do? How are you gonna make atonement? How are you gonna make amends? And to me, the very minimum, I don't know what the judge is gonna sentence him, the very minimum for what he has done, given his prior record, and his negligence and complete disregard for the lives of these individuals, is 20 years, and then marked for time already served.
he's given 4 years. It's what we agreed.
Okay, well.
Now, he's parole eligible, he won't serve 4 years, but he's parole eligible, that's up to the parole board.
Right. But
I mean, did you actually see the actual collision, or did you get there right after the collision?
I
Well, that's
was
what they
within
buy.
seconds. I could visually see the accident. I couldn't hear it though.
Okay.
It was
Hey,
like
I was talking about
disbelief.
I didn't, I was never clear to anybody except for the parties. There was no highway, there was 8 people right there in the body. But he didn't react. I didn't know how anybody actually did this.
Yeah, I saw it. It looked like something fast and furious. When he slammed into that, went straight up the air.
You saw that. You saw
Yes.
that.
And then immediately got
Yeah,
off the road.
can you fill out for this, make sure
Figure
I
out
get
what's
it
going
all?
on.
Not what you're recommending, I just want to make sure I don't miss anything.
Very traumatic and disturbing.
You are a good man, Adam.
I can be reasonable every once in a while.
What's that?
I said I'm reasonable every once in a while.
I will sing your praises, anybody who ever asks.
I appreciate it. So the maximum sentence you could
You
receive
say.
Doesn't matter.
is
You didn't even care for these people.
Did you see his?
Forever destroyed.
They said, "Okay."
Killed.
Yeah, they're right up.
Okay.
Then you kill the mother.
so
What are you gonna do? How are you gonna make this right? How are you gonna make atonement for this? You're gonna have to live with it. He's gonna have to live with this for the rest of
so
his life.
it's
Are you in Florida?
No, I live here in Atlanta. Oh, Metro.
I just saw it.
Well, yeah, we have Rad, all Carolina.
so 15.
And yeah, usually on some weekends I would do. So I take it you are the defense attorney for.
Curtis Williams, yeah, yeah.
And you are.
On civil.
Oh, excellent. Yes.
They're on the way.
They're on the, yeah, I think they're on the way. I remember at the bond hearing, when I met the Gisberts, I was like, this is like the nicest family.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you can imagine some victims have a lot of baggage. This is a family that is,
Yeah, absolutely, that's
they
right.
were on the freezer. They were from Michigan.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
That's exactly.
I mean, just imagine that you're driving from Michigan to Atlanta or to Florida. And if they were any time there, went to a gas station, stopped, they got something to eat, they were 3 seconds to go back. They don't get what it hit somebody else. He would hit somebody else, but I mean, I'm saying it's just amazing how just seconds can change your life.
We're all one here.
Oh, yeah, we are, absolutely.
I'm glad you were able to talk some senses there. I mean,
I'm not sure I was, I think his 3 family members did. They were the saving grace today. It was a last second ditch effort to clear the courtroom and let them talk.
So if he had, I guess, conceded.
Yeah. We would have started trial right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Then I would have, exactly, I understand.
You would have testified, yeah. So, yeah, it would have been a
For the rest of his life.
100% no win. I think it was he's always been wonderful, but like I told the judge a minute ago, when I told him 2 weeks ago, we were getting here for trial, I said, I need you to write out every single thing that happened at night, everything about your criminal history, just so if I do have to put you on the stand, I know what you're gonna say, and so when I give an opening, it's the truth and I know what to say.
What did
I
you
go
think
back.
was gonna happen? That's what I wanna say to him. What did he think 2 weeks ago was gonna happen?
That trial?
Yeah, what did he think?
Well, I think he got to the point where he was just resigned to the fact of, if I'm going to prison until, he's got 2 small girls. And I think he thought, if I'm gonna go to prison till my 50s or 60s, then my life's over. And I told him, I said, I'm almost 50, and you may be out by the time you get to 50, and I don't think my life's over. I think I got a lot of time left to live. So I said, you can't think like that. You're saving, if you plead guilty, you're saving your life, because you will get out one day. If you go to trial, judge can't help him. He's going every day the rest of his life. And I don't know what wasn't getting through to him. I think he's in his mid-30s. He's like, if I miss my daughters growing up another 18, life's over. That's why I kept telling him. I kept saying, I said, by the time you fall out, will be about the time your daughters have kids. You may have fucked up their childhood, but you got a chance to be a grandfather.
Yeah.
And
So you're exactly right. And you know what? I think about this, even though this isn't about God, it is about justice. And every time when someone really has done something wrong and egregious, what did God require? Then to give glory, right? To speak about what's happening. And if they didn't, then hammer justice.
yeah, he wrote 2 weeks ago, I went back out there and I expected like 20 pages of his life. He wrote a 2-page apology.
Yeah, what was going on your,
And I was sitting there thinking, one,
Adrian was screaming.
very nice.
Really?
But two, that doesn't help. It's okay,
I'm
well,
sorry.
and
You
he's
called it early, man.
She was just,
You guys all heard? All right. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, I didn't know if we needed you, like, literally write details of that. Okay. So here, we're good. I'll give that. I'll give that to Park, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you for your help. We and the gentleman in the back actually witnessed the record. So I didn't realize there was a witness to the record. He actually witnessed it. So and he was going to testify today or tomorrow or whatever, which would have been even more devastating, sorry, because we actually have a time with us. So our man, he literally, he's crying back there right now, but he literally said, and I told him this should be a great day for him because he's got a chance to talk. And he was knocking out. So you guys could like call him maybe tonight and make sure he made the right decision. I think he needs to do that. So,
That kind of reminds me of like.
No, I missed, say, do it early. I understand. So when you get down to one seat, you say, so when you go down there,
and Mark, I know Todd and Eric had always asked for the discovery report. And I said that I would give it to the criminal case result.
Right.
If, nothing changes here, I've got it on the right. So hard like, good luck with your.
Yeah.
One of the. Yeah, Buck, I hope.
Look, I didn't know that.
He's pursuing it.
Yeah, so he did. So that's it. Oh, yeah, that's the rest of this one, but then.
I mean, to me, you only pursue if the person is, he's a violent, he's a fugitive.
you don't want to say anything?
And it was a common.
You don't wanna say anything.
Yeah, I remember when,
Lisa,
it was a minor, it was very common.
you can't hear me because. Okay,
Now, I know, I assume what Butler.
you don't want to say anything?
I don't know, I guess. Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you chase it, party was gone.
This is your last chance, really?
Huh?
It's your last chance, really?
Yeah, I've got all of that.
I know. So yeah, maybe if, when my family say something, maybe I would say something too.
Okay. You can just speak up then, okay?
Yeah, okay.
All right. You can mute it now.
Okay.
Section roll.
Yeah, I will. because one of them.
Council.
Oh,
Third word, all right, we're gonna sit them down. We will have a seat council, so I can make an announcement.
Okay.
So we'll have to speak. Okay. Get your trouble outside of my break.
so one more for the translation. This one, two.
Anybody else? Not me here.
I'll see you on record.
The guy in the far back corner of the bald guy right there. I just talked to him. He was just, I didn't know this for sure. I didn't know anybody did. He actually witnessed it. He witnessed the entire thing. And he,
Please be seated. Mr. Jacobs, if you wouldn't mind, since you're closest to me, grabbing the indictment, and you guys should change the entry. There's a second signature block.
okay.
You would do that, then we can verify signatures and pick up where we left off.
One right there.
Noted on the official translator for the courts.
Okay.
That I will interpret it.
You want, you, she's very emotional. You want to just speak on behalf of the whole speaker.
Ooh,
The lady.
oh, Kimberly.
Like, I mean, I may keep over this side right here. So we'll go by. Okay.
It should be okay.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Rivers, you ready? Okay, we're going back on the record in State versus Williams. We took a break because Mr. Abate said that there were a couple of family members who were en route. Have they arrived?
Yes, Your Honor.
Great. We also, during that break time, had Mr. Williams complete his plea of guilty form. I'm going to verify those signatures and the signatures on the indictment. Mr. Williams, I'm holding in my left hand a copy of the indictment to which yesterday you entered a plea of not guilty. Have you signed and changed your plea to guilty on that indictment?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Jacobs, you've signed it as well?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Abate?
Yes, Your Honor.
Great. The plea of guilty form, which lists many of the same rights that Mr. Abate covered with you on the record verbally, is something that you, Mr. Williams, and Mr. Jacobs went over during our break. On page 4, there's a place for defendant signature. Is that your signature on page 4, Mr. Williams? And did Mr. Jacobs explain this form to you if it wasn't otherwise self-explanatory?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions about the plea of guilty form?
No, sir.
Mr. Jacobs, did you sign the form on the certification of counsel page 5?
Yes, I did.
And if Mr. Williams had any questions, did you answer them for him about the plea of guilty form?
Yes, I did.
Great, I'll make that part of the record. Mr. Abate, were there any family members who wanted to give a victim impact statement, or they simply wanted to be physically present since they were here in Atlanta?
Yes, there are three members of Mr. Juan Junior's family and Miss Maria Gisbert's family that would like to make a statement.
Great. They can come up one at a time. Sergeant will get them up to the microphone and they can identify themselves and we'll go from there.
Your Honor, Juan Gisbert Senior is going to go first. Miss Rolock is here to translate for Your Honor. She's wanted me to make sure she's not an official translator for the court, but she has been communicating with Mr. Gisbert Senior.
Great.
The entire time.
No one's under oath for this, so I'm happy to have Ms. Rolak's services. Good morning, sir.
Buenos días, George.
Thank you for being here.
Gracias por estar aquí.
Gracias a usted.
Tell me, please, what you want to share about this very, very sad situation.
Dime lo que usted quiere decir sobre esa situación tan triste.
Bueno, lo que quiero decir de esta situación tan triste,
What I
Yo-
want to tell you about this very
vengo a hablar
sad situation
en nombre de todos mis hijos y en todos mis nietos y de mi nuera,
on behalf of my children, my grandchildren, and my daughter-in-law.
somos una familia bastante grande destruida.
We are a big family that have been destroyed.
En estos momentos yo me he quedado con dos pequeños nietos,
At this time, I am left with two small grandchildren,
Liam
Leanne,
y Eden,
Jaden,
de 1 año y 2 meses, y Lía de 7 meses.
Leanne
Se quedaron sin
is
su padre.
2 months and
Una noche veníamos de paseo
they missed their dad. We were on a trip.
Por una persecución policía o lo que fuera, o no sé, han destruido una familia entera. Mi hijo murió. Mi señora murió.
Because of a persecution, we lost my, dime de nuevo.
Mi hijo murió, mi señora murió.
My son died, my wife died.
Me dejaron a mí destrozado. Estoy de todo mi cuerpo desbaratado, ocupándome ahora de mis hijos.
I've been left only with my body. I'm all destroyed.
Mi hijo más pequeño, Ángel, que se encuentra aquí en la sala,
My youngest son is here in the gallery.
sufrió un trauma bien grande al coger a su hermano muerto en las manos.
He suffered
mamá.
a big trauma when he had his brother and his mom die in his arms.
Yo por obra de Dios, no sé por qué razón estoy aquí vivo caminando. Quizás Dios me dejó para criar a mis nietos.
I don't know the reason why I am left here.
Mi vida está destruida por siempre.
My life has been destroyed forever.
El señor Mr. William va a poder ver a sus hijos, a su familia.
Mr. Williams is going to be able to see his family.
Quiero que alguien me explique cuándo yo voy a poder ver mi hijo, mi mujer.
I would like someone to tell me when I'm going to see my family, when I'm going to see my wife.
Me han matado la tercera parte de mi vida, mandé a una parte para poder seguir criando. Además,
They have destroyed the last part of my life.
y prácticamente han destruido dos familias, tanto mi familia como la familia del señor Will. ¿Por qué
And
no lo
he has
sé?
destroyed most of my family and actually two families because Mr. Williams' family is also
Yo tengo
affected.
los hijos de Juan Junior, Liam y Aiden, que día a día me preguntan por su padre.
Juan Junior's children ask me every day for their dad.
Y no era Andrés igual, siempre está pensando. Y no encuentro consuelo, no sé cuándo.
There's no consolation.
Estoy aquí parado y el espíritu mío, pero mi alma está muerta.
I'm here in spirit, but my soul is dead.
Y han destruido todos, son 11 más, eran 11 hijos tenía yo, se me murió uno.
I had 11 children, one of them.
Quedan todos los
is now
otros hijos
dead.
míos, Marlene,
All the others are
Maciel,
there.
Carla, Ginés, todo, pero yo me siento solo, me han destruido mi vida.
Even though I have them all, I still feel very much alone.
Día a día me digo que alguien me diga la razón por qué sucedió este accidente, por qué yo venía de paseo. La carretera estaba limpia,
I have to
Estaba
ask
vacía.
every day, how did this happen? The highway was empty. It was empty.
y estas persecuciones policiales acaban con la vida de mi familia. Por gusto, yo tenía que haber llegado a mi casa con mis hijos vivos.
Because of a police chase, I'm not sure why this had to happen, why I couldn't get home with my entire family.
Hoy en día yo estoy vivo gracias a mi hijo que está aquí,
Today I'm alive
Que
only
fue que
because
acu-
of my son who's here today.
fue el que acudió y me recogió del piso.
He
Él
was the
cargó a su
one-
hermano muerto, cargó a su madre muerta, aquí está hermano.
He was the one who picked me up. He was the one who carried his brother, carried his mother.
Y yo día a día espero que mi hijo vire, que mi mujer vire y no sé cuándo va a virar.
Every
No lo
day,
encuentro, vivo solo con mis nietos.
every day I wonder when I'll be able to see my wife, see my son.
Esto no puedo más.
That's all I have. I can't do anymore.
You've done much, and I thank you very much for sharing your feelings. I think it helps everyone here to know how this has affected your family.
Gracias por decir
Gracias.
todo lo que has dicho para que todo el mundo sepa cómo eso le ha impactado a su familia.
Han destruido a la familia entera.
It has destroyed the entire family.
I wish you many more days of a healthy life, but I do know that you will eventually be reunited with your wife and your son.
Yo-
Espero que tengas muchos más días y que un día va a estar reunido con su esposa y su,
Es lo que más
su
deseo.
hijo.
Yo tenía que haber muerto en el accidente. Yo tenía que haber muerto, no mi hijo.
That's what
Ya yo he
I
vivido
hope.
toda mi vida, tengo 67 años.
I was the one who was
Lo que me
supposed to
queda de
die.
vida, Dios me
I
lo dio
was
para criar a mis
67
nietos.
years old. I should have been the one.
que-
I had lived my life.
Pienso yo a veces que Dios es injusto, el que tenía que haber muerto era yo, Juan Junior, Senior, no Junior. Él tenía que estar vivo con sus hijos.
I think that God should have
Esos
taken my
niños
life
día a día
and
se
not
levantan
taken Juan
En la
Jr.
mañana, preguntando por su papá. Casualmente, antier en la noche, un niño de 3 años.
One,
No
a
sé por qué
child of
motivo.
3 years that has to
Él narró la
ask
muerte de su padre.
where his dad
Él durmiendo
is.
soñó, dice que vio un
He's
carro dando vuelta y
sleeping
vuelta y
and
vuelta.
he's sleeping and he's
Y
saying.
que veía una grúa en
Me
el piso con los...
esperas un tantito para poder, disculpa. Dime de nuevo.
Dijo que veía una grúa en el piso con los ojitos cerrados y
He's-
un boy muerto en el
he's-
piso.
He says that he sees the
Y le dice a
3-year-old.
su mamá que era su papá.
He sees the
Es
car
imposible
turning
un niño
over
de
and
3
over and
años que
over.
tiene ahora
Me
que haya
esperas-
visto eso.
me
Sueña
esperas un
con...
tantito, me esperas un tantito. He sees a car rolling over and over, and he says that he sees a body, and he thinks that it's his mom.
Esos niños ahora en la vida han quedado con su mamá y conmigo. Yo tengo 67 años. ¿Cuánto puedo vivir? 1 o 2 años más. ¿Quién me cuida a esos niños después?
Who's going to take care of these sons, of these little boys? I'm 67 years old. It's just,
Es injusto.
it's unjust.
Thank you, sir.
Gracias,
Thank you
señor.
to you, John.
Judge, next is Mr. Angel Gisbert. You'll just spell your name for the court reporter.
Angel Gisbert, ANGEL.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How you doing?
I've been better, but I know what I've been through is nothing like what you and your family's been through. Tell me what you'd like to share about this situation.
I'm pretty sure he talks to his kids on the phone. My brother hasn't. You know, for me to live through this and have to sit there and watch my brother's last couple seconds of his life in my arms while this guy over here is running and just left everybody, you know, and I'm running back and forth trying to carry my mom. You know, my mom is dead, my brother's dead. Only one that survived was my dad, and I witnessed everything. You know, so I lost my business partner. I lost all my business because that was my business partner. It was us since we were kids. And I don't have no more business, you know, and I'm left with this responsibility of my family and my brother's kids that it's hard. And for him to sit there and on the phone, at least, even if he's in jail, but at least he talks to his kids, when my brother would never talk to his kids again. And, you know, I wouldn't want no one to go through what I went through. You know, witness two of your family members, not even a friend, is my mom, my brother died in my arms. That's not something anyone should go through. And life is never going to be the same.
It won't. You've experienced something I can't even imagine. There was nothing fair about it. And what we're doing today doesn't bring your brother back, doesn't bring your mother back.
It never will.
It won't. We can't. If we could, we would. But it closes a chapter. It, I think, delivers an important message. And in some small way, not a major way, but in a small way, it vindicates the rights of the victims, that there are consequences for doing what happened, and that it was a senseless set of deaths, your mother and your brother, but it's not forgotten. And I think that's the important part of what we're doing today. That doesn't mean, boy, you should feel fine now.
No,
You shouldn't, and you won't. But you've got family. I was heartened to hear from your father that you got a whole bunch of brothers and sisters, and hopefully family comes.
The only brother that I had with me every day was him.
I understand.
They're all girls. You know,
It's not the end of the world, though. They can still be there. I appreciate that
it's
you
not
lost
the same.
your business partner and your brother and your life partner in that respect. But I'm hoping that family remains family, and that you lift each other up, because you don't forget something like this. But we are closing a chapter today through your family's commitment to being available if this had to be a trial, and blessedly it's not. I don't have magic words to make you feel better, other than that I hear you. It's important for me to have heard from you directly. I'm glad you were able to be here, and I wish you the best going forward.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Can I say something?
You sure? Hold on one sec, Ms. Gisbert. So we've got another family member on, and she's welcome to say something. Just want to make sure we go in the order. You want Mr. Abate, and we need to explain who is on the Zoom call as opposed to who's here in court.
Yes, Judge. This is Miss Andrea Gisbert. She is the wife of Mr. Juan. She can make a statement, and then Miss Bennett would like to make a statement.
Okay, so Ms. Gisbert, we'll hear from you, please, and then Ms. Bennett will follow you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I just gonna say to Williams that he should consider himself very lucky, no matter the amount of years that he's gonna make or whatever. I mean, it's not gonna change the fact that now I had to live my life as a young widow with two little ones. My kids' names are Aiden and Liam. Aiden is 4 and Liam is 3 years old. And it hurts me every day that his dad can be here with them, and they misses his dad every day. And he was a loving father. We wanted to have more children because that was our plan. And now we can't do that. And not only that, but also the responsibility that comes with it, because despite all the trauma, despite all the sadness and everything, I can't give up. I had to keep on going and make it happen for my kids. So you should consider yourself very lucky that at least you're in jail or whatever, but you can talk to your kids on the phone. You can eventually gonna see them. You know, I don't know, just that you change this family forever. And you know, we are gonna live like this for the rest of our lives, and it's not easy, but he's giving me the strength to go on. And nothing, I hope, that you pray, and I hope that, nothing, just, that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you, ma'am, for sharing that. And I hope that you're continue to take good care of those young kids of yours. I appreciate you sharing that. Ms. Bennett?
My name is Kimberly Bennett. Bennett, Bennett. My son grew up with both boys. Angel was best friends with my son from the age of 10 until forever. Tito and Juan Jr. and my son got really close the last 5 years. He's destroyed so much in our family. Nothing's gonna bring them back. Nothing's gonna take the last images that we have. I fight every day to try to see Juan Jr. laughing. I can't see that image anymore. I see the last image I have of him. I see Angel holding his brother. He's destroyed so many people's lives. He gets to meet his children. I never get to see him smile anymore. I don't have that image in my mind anymore. I don't have the image of Maria laughing, joking, nothing. I see pain every day with the family. They weren't just business partners, they were brothers, best friends. They did everything together every single day, working, trying to make a life for all of them. I feel like I lost my son in that accident because they are my sons. I don't know what else to say because you've heard it from all of us. There's nothing that's going to bring them back. But just thank you for listening to me.
Of course, Ms. Bennett, and you've said plenty. And what I will say in response is please continue to be there for the family like they're going to be there for you. You have a shared survivor story, and I think it's important that you continue to help the Gisbert family move forward, and they do the same for you. It's not easy. Each day is going to be difficult, but it's an effort that you ought to make collectively. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for listening.
Nothing further from the state, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Jacobs and Mr. Williams, if you come back up to the podium, please.
Judge, if I could, my client's mom would like to make one brief statement.
Great.
If that's fine.
That is appropriate, and she should come on up to the podium. Ma'am, I appreciate you being here. I just need to make sure you direct your comments to me. You can say anything you want, but stay focused on me and not folks in the gallery. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And if you could get your name in the record for us.
Sorry, my name is Yvette Williams. I'm Kyrie's mom. And thank you for allowing me to express this. This hasn't been easy on any of us. There are no winners in a situation like this. I've just been praying that that the family would have forgiveness in their heart. It was an accident, and I I too have 2 grandchildren and one of them I'm taking care of. She's 7 years old. And she too asked for her daddy because the night before it happened, we went out to celebrate his birthday. And he told her that he said, "I'll see you later, baby girl." And he's never come back. And so she suffers from separation anxiety. And she cries all the time. She won't let me out of her sight. If I drop her off someplace, she's nervous, she acts out, she has temper tantrums, and that's the only way she can express her feelings. And that's because he took care of her when she was a baby. You know, he's had full responsibility for her. And then I took on when he couldn't took on. So there are just no winners in this situation. I'm so sorry that it had to happen. I don't have any family. It's just me. I lost my 2 closest relatives this year. One in May, and then 6 weeks later, I had to go back and bury. So I don't have any family, but my son and my grandchildren. So that's all I have. I don't have anybody to spend holidays or Christmas or anything with. It's just me. I just had one child. My parents are dead. My brother's in Virginia, but he had a stroke. He can't talk. My sister died. I don't have any immediate family other than my son and my 2 grandchildren.
You mentioned that you're taking care of one of your grandchildren. Is the other with his or her mom?
Yes, the oldest is with her mom.
Okay.
And you know, I support where she's 12. The 7-year-old lives with me.
With you.
I had to take on responsibility for her at 50. God gave me the grace and the strength to take care of her. And she's doing well, with the exception of the anxiety. She does have the separation anxiety from her dad because she's just attached to him. She's not attached to her mom. She's attached to him. So I just wanted to ask just say if they could find it in their heart, if you guys could just find it in your heart to forgive him. He's not a bad guy. He's never done anything intentional to anybody. He is not a murderer. That was an accident. It was a careless accident, but it was an accident. It was not intentional. I just ask that you show mercy.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Williams. And thank you in particular for taking care of your grandchild.
Yeah.
That's an important role you're fulfilling right now.
Yes. God has graced me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Anything, we'll get Mr. Williams back up here. Anything more from you, Mr. Jacobs? All right, Mr. Williams, come on back up, please. When we paused before our last break, you were thinking about whether there was anything you were going to say. And we diverted to a few other things, but this is your chance, should you want to. You don't have to get on the record what you want to say about.
I just want to let the family know that I don't know what happened. I was scared for my life. There wasn't even no reason for me to run. I had everything. It wasn't no reason. It was just I was scared. And my best friend that I'm with every day had just got shot by the police 2 months before that. So when they hit the blue lights on me, it's just I panicked. And I wake up every day it ain't a day. I know it's been a minute since it happened, almost 3 years, but it's not a day go by that I don't pray for them and ask for forgiveness. And every time I seen Mike, I was like, man, you heard from what they saying. I can't believe this. I can't believe it happened like that. I ain't no bad person. They trying to make me be like a drunk driver, and I was just out of control. And then all my action was out of fear. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't thinking like, it was like, I was just like, ain't something bad gonna happen, like it always do. And then I just pulled off and they like, now it's like, from listening to them, it's like they feeling like I understand they're gonna put the blame on me because I was the person behind the wheel, but really, I was just scared. Like I wasn't just drunk driving, just out of control.
How much had you had to drink that night?
I had some drinks, but earlier, like it had been 2 or 3 hours since I was drinking.
What does some drinks mean?
Like I had been drinking from 9 to like 1, but like a little bit at a time. But I wasn't just sloppy drunk. I already had like been driving from drinking. I hadn't been driving for at least an hour around. Like I came back to where I was at, and it was like I was following my friend. Like I wasn't just going down the wrong way. I was following somebody, and he went that way. So I went that way behind him, but the officer didn't see him go that way. He saw me, and then it's like I don't want the kids, like the kids are the kids first. Like I know they got to grow up too, just like my kid, and like I don't want them thinking that they family or their loved ones was just killed by a drunk driver, because that wasn't the case. It was more scared, being scared, like, or in shock. Like I had been driving at least 40 miles, like around. Like I had drove around that same parking lot like 3-4 times looking for a parking spot. That was the whole thing. Like I wasn't just going down the wrong way because I'm so wasted. The parking spot right here, I'm about to park right here with a tow truck. And they like, nah, you can't park right here or we're gonna tow your car. So I'm like, where you could park at? They're like over there. But I ain't realizing that it's a one way. And my friend who I'm with, he done went that way. So I'm going behind him. I wasn't just wasted, because that's what it looked like. Like I'm wasted and I'm just going down the wrong way. Like that wasn't the case. I was just trying to find a parking spot. And then all that led up to that. And then after the wreck, like I seen the videos and stuff. Finally, like 3-4 days ago, my first time, I didn't know nothing like that was going on. Like
That's because you ran away. You wouldn't know.
but it was people in the background yelling, saying that they gonna kill me. That they said, oh, what he said, I'm gonna hunt you down. It was a lot going on at that time. So it wasn't like I just got in the wreck, and then when I get out, I'm just trying to run away from everything. I'm like, and I'm still thinking, like, I'm really in my head thinking that the police hit me. And I'm like, when the car stopped, I'm like, damn, he's trying to kill me or something. Like I'm panicking. And then the whole part to the whole situation is like, I just don't want the family to think like I'm a bad person because this happened. Like, even though it looked bad, and that's why I just took the plea. But
Well, I wouldn't spend a lot of time worrying about that. I don't think they're going to think you're a good person, and you're going to beat yourself up for 40 years if you're hoping they're going to say, you know what, actually, Mr. Williams is a good guy. They don't think that, and that's not going to change. You're going to need to live with that amongst the other things you're going to need to live with.
yeah, I understand that, but I was just want to let them know, like, because I never had a chance to talk to
That's
them.
good. And I got that. So you keep talking about that. If there's more you want to say on that, that's.
Never had a chance to reach out to him, and I might not never be able to talk to him again. So I was just using this time to express and just let him know, like I'm sorry, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, man. And had I knew that something like that was gonna happen to somebody, like I would have showed myself to go, like the past or whatever. Like if I had to know, like right before this, I'm gonna cause an accident and somebody gonna get deceased, I would have told myself to go. You see what I'm saying? Like I would have never wanted to happen to nobody else. Like I would have just took it for myself, but I don't know what happened or how it happened like that. Now I don't know. It It's just something I gotta live with, but I do pray for them and I pray for their kids. And I want to make, and I hope they forgive me or at least and acknowledge the fact that I'm the person that I am and see me for who I really am and know that the police and how they done treated me and acted towards the people around me is the reason why I pulled off. Like it wasn't no other reason than that.
Not gosh, I'm on federal supervised release, and if I get so much as a traffic ticket, I may get revoked.
It's all the same. Like it's all in the same. Like as soon as they run my name, oh, I got a record. They gonna just do the most every time. It never fails. Like I done been pulled over and they done took all the money I had for nothing. A lot of been spit on the face, hit by a taser, knocked teeth out. My teeth got knocked out. All these fake up front from getting hit by a taser by the police. Like it's just like that's what goes on when you a person in my shoe and the people that like where we around, like our area. So it's it's bad. And it as years go on or going through this, you get traumatized by those situations. And I can't try to sit there and say like it's an excuse and make an excuse for it, but that's the state of mind that I was in, and that's what I was going through. So that's why I made the decision that I made, and then it was a terrible decision, and it caused a tragedy. But I just shit. Messed up, man.
Okay, I think you did. I think that's right. Okay. Well, Mr. Williams, I find there's a factual basis for your plea. If this case had gone to trial, which it was set to do at 9 this morning, and the state had proven what Mr. Abate shared with me, I think the jury would be authorized to convict you of all the counts in the indictment, but in particular, the ones to which you are pleading guilty. I also find that your plea is knowing and voluntary. Knowing means that you've understood the things that we've been discussing, and if we didn't, you called a timeout and talked with Mr. Jacobs about it. Do you agree with that, or do you have any questions about what we've discussed so far?
No, sir, I don't have no questions.
Okay, you feel like you've understood the proceedings?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I also find that your plea is voluntary. That doesn't mean that you are enthusiastic about entering this plea, but you are entering it after consulting with family members and your lawyer repeatedly. And you, not your lawyer, not your family, but you, Mr. Williams, have decided that the right way to move forward is to enter this plea rather than go to trial. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Then I'll accept your plea. Counts 1, 2, 5, 9, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, and 30 are being dismissed by the state. Mr. Jacobs, we're actually in a posture now where you have to consent to that because we already have started the trial. Okay. I don't know if technically, because I haven't sworn the jury, but it's safer to get on the record that you consent to those dismissals. All right. Importantly, I have heard from a number of the surviving members of the Gisbert family. That was very helpful to understand what they're still going through, as well as hearing from Ms. Bennett, who's unofficially part of the family. It was helpful to hear from your mother, Mr. Williams, and from you. It, I think, illustrates that there really are no lucky people today. I know that some of the Gisberts have pointed out that you'll still be able to interact with your kids, and that's true, and that puts you in a very materially different situation than Juan Jr. Or his mother. But it is still, because of the decisions you made that early morning, is having a big impact on your kids too. They are gonna grow up without a dad. They'll see you on a screen, talk to you through plexiglass, et cetera. You need to own that as well, because of the decisions you made that early morning, both to drink and to drive and to flee in your car and on foot. Decisions that you made. it has these consequences that ripple through two families. It's really sort of a different degree of tragedy. There's the permanent one, the loss of life, as we heard from the Gisbert family members, and on your side, the loss of the father figure for your two daughters. I guess the last thing I'll say before I pronounce sentence is your mom at one point, Mr. Williams, said, I'm sorry it had to happen, but of course this isn't something that had to happen. If you've been drinking as much as you said, even in 2019, there were ways to get around town where you weren't behind the wheel. And you can blame law enforcement all you want, but it wasn't Officer so-and-so driving your car. It wasn't Officer so-and-so who got in the car and decided to drive, went the wrong way, didn't stop, etc. I'm not suggesting for a minute that you had a plan to crash into people. I don't believe that. But the decisions you made throughout that night, from 9 to 1 when you were drinking, and then to keep on driving, whether you thought you were in control or not, those are decisions you made and no one else. And so I appreciate you helping me understand why, when the blue lights went on, you had the reaction you did. And I respect that. I don't doubt your word at all. My point is simply, you got into that situation through choices you made, not through choices other people made. And so that's where the blame game needs to stop. I hear you about losing your friend. And so I'm understanding much more now that we've met why things unfolded the way they did. That doesn't lessen the pain for the Gisberts. And you understand that.
You don't. I'm sorry.
But I think the state understands it as well, which is why they've agreed to a situation where you don't have a life without parole sentence, because that's what you would have been looking at had you gone to trial and a jury found you guilty. I'm going to follow the recommendation from the state and from your lawyer. I think it's appropriate. I know that it seems to you, Mr. Williams, because I've heard you say it, like a crazy amount of time, and it is a long time, but it is less than forever. And the losses on the Gisbert side are forever. And that's an important distinction, and why I think it is in many ways an appropriate sentence. So I will sentence you on count 3 to 15 years to serve. Count 4 and 6 are vacated. Count 7 is 15 years to serve. That'll be consecutive to count 3. Count 8 and 10 are vacated. That gets us to count 11. And counts 11 through 20. 11 through 20. Nope, but we have to only the odd number. So counts 11, 13, 15, 17, and 19. 11, 13, 15, 17, and 19 are all 10 years to serve. They run concurrently with each other. They are all consecutive to count 7. That gets us to 40. Count 21. Gotta find my notes here. Counts 21 through 27 are all 10 years to serve. They'll run concurrently with each other and consecutive to count 7.
It can be sentenced on because they're separate elements.
Okay.
Then we get to the misdemeanors, 28 through 35, with the exception of 30, because that's been dismissed. 28 through 35 are all 12 months to serve. They will run concurrently with count 3, The way I've intended this math to work, and if someone shows me when they see the final disposition that it is different than this, I will correct it. I intend for that to be a term of 40 years in custody. Mr. Williams, you'll get credit for all the time you've been in. We talked about that before, but it remains true. You've been in custody because of these charges. And so from the date of your arrest through now is credited towards those 40 years. You are not being sentenced as a recidivist. The state withdrew the recidivist motion or notice. So this is a non-recidivist sentence. Mr. Abate, did you catch anything else that I ought to say in connection with the sentence?
No, Your Honor.
Nothing else vacates as far as you understand it.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And there isn't other merger. I think we've got different victims across all the serious injury by vehicles that weren't dismissed. So they would not merge. And the same with the hit and runs. It's different victims. So there wouldn't be any merger there. All right. State agrees with the way I pronounced it. Mr. Jacobs.
It's a small issue, but I think all the misdemeanors except for the obstruction would merge into more serious offenses. They were all traffic violations, so I think they would all merge into other counts.
And just as an example, how would running the red light merge?
Well, maybe not run a red light, but I'll about that one. Like reckless driving is one offense, I believe.
How would it merge?
I think it would merge into the vehicle homicide based on reckless driving.
Okay, it would if it's based on reckless driving. You're exactly right. So let me be clearer. No, that's okay. I'll be more granular. I should. Fleeing and attempting to elude, was that the basis? Okay, so 28 merges into count 3. 29, which is reckless driving, merges into count 3. The DUI count 30 has been dismissed, but 31 through 35, which are wrong ways, red lights, and then an obstruction, those don't merge. Those are 12 months. They run concurrently with count 3. Thank you for catching those because you get kicked back anyway. All right. To the Gisberts and Ms. Bennett, again, I don't pretend that today fixes things. I hope that it partially heals. It is a recognition of what your family has suffered, what it will continue to suffer. I don't believe in a pound of flesh. That's not what this is about. But I do believe in consequences for actions. And I've explained to you and to Mr. Williams how there were decisions he made that resulted in this. And I've shared with you, I don't think Mr. Williams set out behind the wheel, where's a car I can run into and hurt people. That's not what this is about. But that doesn't make your brother and your mother any less dead because he didn't intend to do it. His actions resulted in that. And that's why he's serving 40 years. It's about as long a sentence as I've handed down, short of a life sentence. So these actions have had real serious consequences now for everyone, not just Mr. Williams's family and more importantly, your family. So I appreciate you all being here. Ms. Williams, I continue to appreciate what you're going to continue to do. I'm your age, so I know what it takes. My kids are a little bit older, but you're going to continue to take care of your grandchild and be there for your other grandchild. Mr. Jacobs, I appreciate the work you've done on this case. You've been on it for a while. You have fought hard for Mr. Williams. Initially, it was on the expert side, and then it was in the trenches here on the eve of trial. And Mr. Abate and Ms. Convery, as always, thank you for your professionalism and handling this case in the way your office thought was the best way to handle it. And you too, Sarge. Anything else from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Jacobs?
Nothing, just thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you all.